very much, Uri. Excited to be here. It's my first keynote. I gave many talks in the past, never a keynote though. Actually, I'm in New York now. My partner Ariel is in Israel. He's going to continue me in the middle. We're going to talk about our journey in the last few months about MCP. We have a lot to say about it. It's pretty cool stuff. I hope you enjoyed it. So just quickly who we are. In the last 20-something years, we've been doing software engineering and security. We are second-timers. And after 4 years running piano, didn't work that well. We decided to pivot. We just wanted the best opportunity, and it came now, hopefully, with the excitement of using AI tools through the MCP protocol. We are building a secure hub. We are going to talk a lot about it, but with exciting insights that can help you too. So let's talk about the good stuff in MCP, because after all, we know the bad stuff also, but let's start with the good. So the good stuff is that, it's like plug and play. You can connect it, you can enhance any LLM and just start using other external tools. What makes it so exciting is like the formula down here is that first it carried over HTTP, that's the transportation. So now you can access everywhere around the world. You have APIs, right? So now you can do extended function calling or RPC. But the most important thing is the textual documentation of the APIs. This is what makes it so powerful, so it's dynamic. And then we can work with any tool remotely. You probably know this, but just because I'm one of the first talkers. And then running, code is very easy in Python and just decorations. And this is how you can start rolling your own MCP server. Let's talk about the bad stuff. So if you want to use MCP today or AI tools, unfortunately, you have to be a developer, and that's not so friendly to other people, power users that want to use it. Like, where do you find the servers? How do you run them? Configuration, API keys. I'm sure some of you, suffered a lot from it. And then the prompt injections are real. And then again, no authentication, which maybe came out last week. But the point is that, if you want to connect to your own Gmail, for example, there are so many steps you need to do, and some of them are going through authorization by Google itself. So that's a pain. And then again, all the security issues. And eventually, can we trust MCP? Like, yeah, it's awesome. We can connect everywhere, but are we not afraid to run it on our machines, enterprise computers, etc.? And the funny thing is that even in Cursor, one of the favorite IDs for everybody running with amazing agent, it's still like very manual. So again, only if you are a developer, you can use it. So let's talk about our journey for real now. We just wanted to connect to our WhatsApp accounts and starting access the chats, the multimedia like photos and things like that, and summarize it. And we said it's going to be so cool to be able to do it from GPT. The problem is, like you're seeing, there are so many open source projects out there, some of them with a few stars, others with thousands of stars. And we said, let's do it. Like, let's take one of them and see how it works. So the first one we took, it was running over Chromium. And that's funny. It took it 10 minutes to, register all the messages and caching everything. And then the functionality was partial, tons of hallucinations. And this is a point where if you write MCP servers, you need to understand that throwing too much data back at it is not going to work. That's why people tell me, hey, I just wrapped APIs, not going to be so smart. So we tried to fix it, but our friend Nemo said, doesn't work. And we got frustrated. And then we said, let's do take two. We took another open source. This time it was also like quirky with, complex architecture. And again, partial functionality. You can see different stack here. But eventually, Nemo said, doesn't work. And then we got pissed off. And you know what you do when you get pissed off? You try to build something on your own. So this time, we made it. It took us like 2-3 days. It's not so easy. Everything is undocumented. There are some GitHub projects about the, what's new. That's the library that helps accessing all the APIs. And eventually, we made it working. So this is an example of telling GPT like to summarize 300 messages. Eventually, it got the right message. And this is what we got in response. So it's pretty cool. It actually works. And let's talk about what we learned from it. So open source, everybody is rushing to claim they're open source. Doesn't mean much. Even the Slack open source by Anthropic wasn't that great for real production. And again, wrapping APIs is not going to work for you. You need to do more work. You need to be careful about how you return things. And the prompts is maybe the most important thing in MCP. The problem is not everybody is supporting the MCP prompts. And this is how you teach the agent to use your APIs in a better way. And descriptions matter. How you document the APIs is what's going to help you to make it a better server. And if you have long chains of APIs, sometimes, it has to go ABC, like the API calls. Then with the MCP prompts, you can, again, teach it how to do it better. So now I'm going to give Ariel, my CTO, continue talking. And thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll have Ariel. Yes.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Can you share your screen, please? We'll continue.
Yes.
Perfect.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. So you can go. Gil, in the meantime, you have questions in the chat, so you can feel free to answer. Go ahead.
Okay, so hi, everybody. I'm Ariel. I'm a Gil co-founder. And the next step in our thought process was, now that we have the WhatsApp MCP server working, how can we make it accessible to as many people as we can? So you may say Cursor, but as we know, Cursor is mostly developer-focused, and Claude, which is actually great in MCP usage and being an agent, is also not that adopted. So we said, why don't we just try to embed or connect any chat basically that we have on the web with Chrome extension to MCP? And we did it, and it actually worked, but I want to show you a few challenges we had during the step. So what you can see here on the right is actually how we enhance the first prompt sent by the user with tool definitions. So we just say the user asks that message, but hey, ChatGPT, we have many tools. Please respond us with predefined format that we have on that kind of system prompt that we invented, and we recognize it on the response, and we replace it with a nice button that the user can press and run the MCP tool. So all of it was actually implemented by our extension, but we had a few challenges that I wanted to share with you. I think the main parts here is really that LLM, chat, and agent is not the same. Okay, LLM is the raw infrastructure that you can call with some input, you get output. Agent is something a bit above it that gets also a list of tools, and it actually knows to reason and decide which tool to call and so on. But chat is actually an application, and that application, you have no control over the system prompt. It expects a few things. For example, it uses memory to store previous discussions, previous conversations, and in that conversation, for example, it can try to reuse IDs or results of MCP calls that happened last time, but this time they are not relevant, right? Like the idea of a discussion, the idea of a contact may have changed. So a lot of what you can see here on that system prompt that we created, and it's actually much longer, is actually to try to fight the nature of that application and try to make it really happen. And again, it's really worked eventually, but it's not as good as an agent. So what we got eventually is something like what you can see here, that the user is providing is system prompts. We enhance it by the extension. We send it to it's not really to the LLM, it's actually to the application, to the OpenAI ChatGPT application. The output is being sent. We identify the button. We call the MCP server, and then we send the results over the chats. And once ChatGPT gets it, it gets the result, and it continues the discussion. But again, it's not exactly as an agent because it wasn't built for that. It has the memory. It has a lot of system prompts behind the scenes that assumes tool calling is going to happen on his side. So, for example, here on the left, you can see a lot of the what we had during that journey. ChatGPT telling us we can't access the function, or trying to call the functions many times because it tries to call it internally and it gets no response. Or on the right, really hallucinations of nothing that he just invented. So you can see a lot of those examples, or trying to call the functions without the proper function calling format we defined, and we are not identifying that output because it doesn't contain the full format we specified on the system prompt. So these are our challenges. It really worked. Happy to discuss with everybody if you try something similar. And we actually open source it eventually, so you can even take a look there. So that's about our kind of journey with trying to make it more accessible to everybody in terms of the agent, in terms of the chats that they use. But we still said, with all the problems that Gil mentioned at the beginning about about MCP, and I'm sure many people are going to talk later on this day, even on the security problems that we haven't really dived in. But we said, how can we still make it very accessible to as many people as we can? And we came eventually with our hub. That hub is actually a place that you can go into and choose any MCP that we have, and we are extending it with more and more tools, and just add it to your to a space. We call a space is actually a bucket of MCP servers that we expose as a single MCP server to any agent that you want. And the point is that we run all of them for you. You don't need to think too much about if you trust them, because we do the curation for you. You don't need to think too much about where to run them or how to run them. We just do it for you. And we even solved the problem with the credentials that in many of the MCPs is part of the problems, because just to get the credentials, for example, of the Google Drive is really something that most of you are not going to do. And in our case, it's being solved with a simple OAuth dialogue. So eventually the way it works is that you have an MCP client, it can be Cursor, Cloud, or anything else, or even the extension that we created. In the normal case, it just talks with them. They talk with MCP servers that behind the scenes talk with third-party APIs. With our hub, you actually talk to, instead of talking to many endpoints, many MCPs that you run either on your side, on your client, or remotely, you actually talk to a single endpoint on our hub, and that hub actually abstracts behind it all the MCP servers. And the MCP servers themselves are, as I said, curated. We scan them and we make sure they're good for you. But then we also added other layers to make sure we have trust and we can really make it a secure solution. So we sit also in between the MCP servers to the third-party services, and we apply what we call a restrictions layer that allows you not only to get better security, but also better controls. For example, you can configure that WhatsApp can only see the WhatsApp MCP server you can run on our hub, can only access certain groups, or can only get read messages, but cannot write, send any message. So you get more control and more, and you will have it easier to run everything. As I said earlier, we also solved the authentication, both between the clients, like Cursor, to us with OAuth, the modern way to authenticate with MCP, but also in order to call the third-party API services with simple OAuth, and you no longer need to get those tokens from everywhere. And then the other piece, as I said, is that you can choose really the kind of the scopes within each MCP server of what it can and cannot access with the restrictions layer. So this is how we try to simplify the usage of MCP to many people. In terms of how we run the infrastructure, just again sharing what we did, is we actually run a single pod per space. Space is again a bucket kind of MCP servers, and we really run it isolated from others because it has the credentials, because we want it to make sure it's fully secure. So we really, every time you go to the hub, you create a new space. You can have a few. Each of them gets its own pod, and then each MCP server actually runs in a sub-container within it. We actually waited for a new feature in Kubernetes to really be able to do it, and we really use it, and it's very good, because now we have full isolation between the MCP servers. They cannot access each other. Somehow we even proxy all the network traffic, so we can have the rules. I talked about the restrictions earlier to make sure they're accessing only the APIs they need to access, and they're not accessing others. So this is about the hub. This is about how we run it. But then we said, hey, how can we even more improve the security even more? And Gil mentioned we created like vaults in the last couple of years, and we are leveraging Vault actually to store all those authentication parameters, the auth credentials, and all the sensitive pieces of the information. And in order to try to avoid, many types of attack, like what's known to be IDO, when one user accidentally gets access to another user information, we actually use a special security feature in our own Vault solution that actually gets the JWT of the end user. Okay, so the end user is talking with our hub. When the hub tries to access the sensitive pieces of the information that are not in the database but in our Vault, so it actually has to pass, the web server has to pass the JWT from the end user. The web server itself, without the JWT, cannot access information from Vault, only with the JWT, and Vault actually verifies that the JWT matches the same user that provided that information earlier. So this is really a cool feature that actually make it very hard, or actually impossible to have IDO issues on your code, even if the developer is doing a mistake here or there, because eventually most of the permission checks are being written by developers here on the web server. But if they forget something, we have that layer that makes sure it can never be bypassed. And then another important or interesting information is the fact that we put everything in a space is actually for a few reasons. One of them is UX. Otherwise, it's very annoying to copy paste many endpoints. So in our case, you just copy a single one and you use it. But also the fact that using many tools create challenges. But on the other hand, you still want many tools to be used in many cases. So having a centralized hub that you just connect everything allows you to easily select which tools you want to run and without reconfiguring everything again and again. It's easier for the UX. It also allows us to do dynamic selection. So even though there is many tools, we can dynamically remove or add some of the tools to the agent by, for example, providing an extra tool that says, hey, I have this list of tools. Please tell me which ones you want to use. And then we remove the others. So during the inference, the context of the LLM that is being filled by all the descriptions of all the tools is not that overloaded, right? And it gets better solution. Another cool feature we can do, we haven't talked a lot about it, but the protocol is really keep evolving, and there is a lot of old versions, new versions, because everything is keep changing. So for example, there is a lot of MCP is much more advanced. It provides not only tools, but also prompts and resources, which really enhances the way you use MCP. I guess somebody is going to talk about it more later this day. But we can, for example, translate those that are not supported by many clients to be like any other tool to be better adopted. And we can also allow you to really control which feature, which tool you allow the access right now and which not. So eventually you have that centralized like a space in one location. You can go to it, you can manage it, and it allows you easier management of many tools that you need to use by many clients. And the next piece in our thought process was, how can we help also the desktop side? How can we help the users, for example, on Mac, the developers, which is, I guess, many of you are there. So we created a desktop application that allows you to easily manage all the MCPs being used on your local desktop across all applications. So it runs on your desktop. It actually recognizes all the MCP clients, and it lets you first see what's being used, but then also manage it. So for example, instead of having all the credentials and everything embedded in the configuration file, we know to take it out to actually connect to that application. We take it out and we are running as a proxy. We keep all the secrets stored encrypted on our side, and they're not in the configuration files. We can even let you easily install any new MCP if you need, and we can even let you see the traffic going to all of them. So if you remember, like ProcessMon and all those kind of tools like in the old Windows days. And so we allow you something similar with MCP to manage them, and then also to inspect all the traffic, which is in many cases very cool. Everything is accessible on our website, by the way, so you can quickly find it there. And now a quick demo. So signing up to our website is easy, as you can see. Like any other website, you can just choose the MCP you want to install. In this case, we are taking Slack, OAuth that we need to approve. You add it to the space. You can see that default space on the left. Now we also add WhatsApp. You get a QR code. You can scan it. You can also add PDF generator. And then you connect. You get the URL. There is also, of course, like API keys, and depending on the client, you can configure it by connecting to adding the integration. So this is Cloud, for example, but of course any agent works a bit differently. And then you can just tell it to do anything with all those data sources. It's actually really cool now that we have everything working. Depending on the client, you need to approve the access. And also we have the ability to configure it on our backend to remove or add tools, or even dynamically approve tools using our backend. And as you can see now, it just gets one of the chats groups in the WhatsApp and actually summarizes it. Let me show you the other part of the video. Just a second. Now it's going to show you how to actually create a very nice summary of WhatsApp group. So it first needs to find the chat, then to find the messages, and then it creates a nice summary of all of it. And now we are going actually to send it to the Slack channel, just the summary. So you can actually have all of it in one prompt. We're just trying to show it more easily, but you can have a one prompt that summarizes everything, sending it to Slack, sending it to Gmail. We have also a Gmail application, sending it over WhatsApp in a PDF format, for example. So you can do all kinds of things, of nice things with it. So you can see that it was there on the Slack. Maybe just the last one, really, for example, what I just mentioned, is that you can really say, hey, please summarize it and send it over WhatsApp to somebody, so you can see eventually just you wait a minute or two and you get really a very good summary of a group into WhatsApp, also as an attachment in a PDF, just by using, for example, like a PDF generator and WhatsApp in this example. So this was the demo time. And now, just a second, okay, got it out of full screen. And now just a few thoughts we have from everything we experienced and we wanted to share with you. So as I said, the protocol is still evolving, so you shouldn't expect everything to be fully mature on all aspects, right? From the protocol's perspective, from client perspective, SDKs, we still find bugs even in the SDK itself. A lot of MCP servers that people created, like when there was in some point of the hype, right? And then they forgot about them. They got many stars. It seems like it's very maintained, but it's not really. Security is still an issue, also because of so many versions, so many confusion about everything. So that's, I think, you can see a few other points, and I'm sure it's now, I hope it's now clearer in that regard. And as you can see, many of the clients, this is from the official web page by Anthropic. So you can see most of the clients are not even supporting most of the basic features of the protocol, not even at the advanced feature that they keep adding. And here are a few tips we thought makes worth sharing. So prompting, of course, you know it. Using too many tools is challenging. Just wrapping APIs with like MCP, hey, let's return everything. So it's going to make the context, very, overloaded with not relevant information. So you can take a look on a few of the more points here. This is what, again, we got from all that journey. And that's it.